What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here, and no, this is not the handgun that we will be talking about today, but I just wanted to point this out, right? This is my work carry, but I was also carrying it today because I needed a very thin option that I enjoy and that has some true power, and so I went with my Shield in 40 to carry Appendix today. Absolutely love it. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is a lot of people call my handgun choices outdated. They call them, the subcompacts outdated, the calibers, for instance, 357 SIG or 40. They say it's outdated, it's a dead round, it's pointless, that 9mm rules the world. You guys just remember the pandemic. 40 was one of the easier calibers to find compared to 9mm, just being real with you. So was 357 SIG. So it is nice to have oddball rounds because they're still in production, but in certain situations, you have the benefit. And on top of that, a little bit extra power. If you can shoot it well, who cares? I'm taking a little bit extra powder. But my point with saying all that is the best carry gun, in my opinion, which we're going to discuss, is one that I've talked about for a while. And what I saw is, 6 months, a year ago, year and a half, I always talk about this handgun. It's been my favorite for years and years and years now. But the thing is, everybody makes videos talking down on it. Everyone in the comments says it's outdated, it's old, it's pointless, it's ridiculous, all that stuff. So it's absolutely ridiculous to say that about any working handgun that you carry. As long as you have something on you, that's the way to go. But today we're going to be talking about the Glock 26, and in this case the Gen 5, which has really grown on me. If you know me, I am a Gen 3 aholic, if that makes any sense to you. I love my Gen 3 Glock 26s. I have like 12 or 13 of them. I love my Gen 3 Glock 19s, Gen 3 Glock 29s, Gen 3 Glock 30s, but I also have, a Gen 5 19, Gen 5 Glock 45, Glock 26 Gen 5. Now what's actually interesting about this is it is the MOS version, and before the MOS version was ever even released, I got my hands on this. I just was in the right place at the right time and got lucky. That's it. They weren't released yet. They were only available, over in Europe or whatever to law enforcement, stuff like that. But I actually got my hands on it. And if you don't believe me, go look at my videos from a year and a half ago or whatever. It just ended up being perfect with the Glock 26. But I'm going to tell you why the Glock 26 Gen 5 has really grown on me, regardless of the MOS. Even if it didn't have the optic on it, this would be one of my go-tos. But before we get started, hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe. Now, obviously this firearm safety checked and cleared, and we are good to go. Now, when you look at this handgun, you may say that there's some aftermarket stuff on there, and there is, right? The grips, Handle Edge Series grips, awesome grips. That's aftermarket. Next up is that back plate. Spin Firearms, not a big deal, doesn't affect anything. It's from Millspin, who has some of the best specs, best machining that you could have out there possible. Doesn't do anything, right? And other than that, we just have an optic on there. But being the Gen 5 MOS, it's meant to run with optics, as most pistols are, right? So nothing truly aftermarket in this. But you'll notice that trigger ain't no Glock trigger, right? Actually, that is a Glock trigger. And technically, it's OEM. It didn't come in this handgun, but Glock, for the Gen 5s, sells something called the performance trigger. And that's exactly what it does. It performs. It really changes the Glock trigger. Now, as you can see, I already pulled that trigger, right? So it should be a dead trigger right now, which it is. But the way it was designed, similar to the Timney Alpha trigger and other competition triggers, it's a different design. Therefore, it always looks like it's ready to go, but it is not, right? And why the Gen 5? Why is this becoming something versus the Gen 3? First of all, this is how I carry it. A lot of people complain about not having that third finger on there. Well, you got the Hellcat, the P365, Shield Plus, all of those. My pinky goes underneath and I shoot them just fine. I can shoot any handgun just fine with two fingers like this. My pinky does nothing for my grip, and I've really learned that over the last couple years. And when I shoot, I can literally have my pinky out and it doesn't affect anything. I shoot the same. Pinky on or pinky off. But if I do want some extra capacity, I'll go with this Handgun group base plate. That's going to be a 12 plus 1 for 13 rounds, and you get part of that pinky on there. It feels really good in the hand, a really natural point. And then another 12-round setup that I'll do is the Glock OEM one, because you're going to have your best reliability with the OEM mag. This being 13 rounds, but I do like the Handgun group because I have about 11 or 12 of these base plates. Never a single issue, never a single malfunction. And on top of that, it saves you a lot of space compared to that OEM 12-round mag, right? So still very concealable. But another reason that the Glock 26 is so amazing is, in its 10-round flush setup, it is shorter this way than a lot of things. For instance, I believe it's a little shorter than the Hellcat. It's definitely shorter than all the other subcompacts, the CZP-10S, the Ruger SR9C, the M&P series. It is shorter this way, and that equals concealability. Now the Gen 5s are just a tad bit thicker than the Gen 3s and Gen 4s, I think by 0.04 inches, so it's not 100% noticeable. It's 1.3 inches for width, but I actually like the extra width. I like wider handguns. That's why you see me put stuff like Hogue grips on very thin handguns, because I still have that nice thin slide for being comfortable appendix carrying, but at the same time, I like a bigger grip to grab onto while drawing, but on top of that, I like it to fill my hands. But I can shoot this handgun like a tack driver. The performance trigger, let's talk about it, right? Check out this trigger. It is the crispest, cleanest trigger, and I honestly like it better than the Timney Alpha trigger. Now, the springs from Glock that I put in it are not the competition springs. They are the defensive springs, right? So it's literally the perfect defensive trigger. Not too light, but also not too heavy. Crisp, clean, and a defined wall. But what I like about it is, because that trigger is always going forward, it really springs back on reset, and your hand literally moves not at all when you pull that trigger. Look at that. It does not make you pull shots. It is literally the perfect everyday carry self-defense trigger. Other things I like about this is it helps with lefties. This is an ambidextrous, as Gen 5s are, so this would be a Glock 26 for a left-handed person. This would be the way to go. As you can see, controls are ambidextrous for that slide stop, and I believe you can slide over that mag release. Overall, I have a Sealy Wolf X Pro. All my Sealy optics have ran flawlessly. I've beaten the crap out of them. Go look at my Sealy Bear. It looks like complete trash, but the thing runs. I've dropped it, I've hit it, I've bumped it, I've scratched it. Not a single issue. The one thing I don't like about this, though, is I sort of wish that Glock changed their optic system. I don't like the MOS system. I think it's trash. It sits way too high. You can't co-witness with stock sights or even aftermarket night sights unless they're XLs or suppressor height sights, which I don't really like adding to my handgun. That's an extra cost. But you do have to do that in this case because you cannot co-witness, right? You can sort of get an idea of what center is, but other than that, it is what it is. So I probably will be getting XL sights for this handgun. But this is a recent thing that the Gen 5 has really grown on me. I took it out to the range, shot it back-to-back with my Gen 3s, and this performance trigger just, I mean, you're hitting the same bullet hole every time. I mean, you're doing, 1-inch groupings for 25, 30 yards. The handgun is just a beast, and it's small. Now, the size. Let's talk about the size, right? It's this small, takes a 10-round flush mag, but you can throw that 33-round OEM mag in it, and it runs flawlessly. I did that all weekend. I shot hundreds of rounds in extended mags from Glocks out of these, and not a single issue at all. No problems. And that's what's awesome about this. This can be your home defense if you get a TLR 6 or a Nightstick Light in a 15-round mag from a Glock 19 or 17-round mag from a Glock 19. Throw an X grip on there, and you now have basically full-size capacity, a shorter slide for less muzzle flip, and a battle-size handgun. The Glock 26's width and overall shootability, low recoil impulse, makes this a battle handgun. For instance, a Hellcat, a P365, they're smaller, they're snappier, they're harder for people to shoot. The Glock 26 is one of those handguns that you can actually say shoots like a full-size. I shoot it better than my 19, better than my 45, and a lot of other people say that in the comments. I don't ever hear anyone saying other subcompacts shoot better than their compacts or full sizes, at least on this channel, but they all say that about the Glock 26. And what's nice is, let's say you own the 19, the 45, you own the 17, you can use all those mags in this handgun. So when you pick up a 19 and you own this handgun, you just picked up 2 or 3 mags, depending on what generation, for this handgun. Every time you pick up a larger 9mm Glock, you pick up mags for this handgun. That's awesome for crap hit the fan scenarios, just certain situations, range time, that whole sort of thing. It is an awesome way to go. The Glock 26 is one of those handguns I saw everyone crapping on a while ago, but now I see it coming back almost every day. I see videos that pop up on my feed praising it, talking about how great it is, and the Gen 5 is a lot of those fixes that people wanted, right? Being optics ready, forward serrations. They did not give a light rail, though. That really angers people and makes them mad. For me, I have a designated light carry, and I also carry a flashlight, a handheld. That is how I prefer to do it. Therefore, I don't have to aim my firearm at whatever I'm trying to put light on in certain situations. I can use my light and my handgun separately, which I sort of like. But I also do have a Springfield Army Hellcat with a Streamlight TLR 7A sub on it, and that is my nighttime carry. So if I do go outside at night, which is rarely ever, that is what I carry. But this right here is perfect for almost any situation. 10+1 is plenty of rounds. Don't let people lie to you. If you can shoot, if you can train, if you take the best, you'll never be able to duplicate a self-defense encounter, but you can get close with some of these classes out here, and as close as you possibly can is what I mean, right? Do your due diligence, get to the range, practice shooting from the hip, from the chest, from the side, from the draw, and you will be just fine with 10+1. Trust me, it's all about your training and your instincts and keeping an eye out for things and being aware of where you're at and what you're doing. Now, in terms of the back straps and stuff, I just found the back strap that I liked, but I do like the finger grooves on the Gen 3 better. They just lock my hands in better, but I also do like how it flares out a little bit, and it does lock in your 2 fingers. So overall, ergonomics-wise, I like the Gen 3 a little bit better, but the Gen 5 feels great in my hand. And I wear size large gloves for reference. I have shorter, fatter fingers, though. But the Glock 26 works great for me. And the best part about this handgun is it is beyond easy to conceal. It just disappears. Even though it's wide, for me, I have a harder time with the longer grips. The shorter the handgun, the easier. It doesn't matter how thick it is or anything. I can conceal a shorter, thicker handgun very easy while not giving up any of that concealability. Now, yes, you may say I'm stuck in my ways, blah, 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 but to be honest, the Glock 26, if you look at it from a practical view, the Glock 26 is 100% the best everyday carry option out there in terms of shootability, recoil impulse, magazine compatibility, Glock part availability, its optics ready, reliable, well tested. It just goes on and on and on. Love the Glock 26 Gen 5 MOS. Thanks for watching, guys.